Dr. DeMott here, and welcome back to Advanced Malware Analysis. Today we're going to talk about the exploit vector. So the overview of what we're going to talk about, first we'll talk about a typical exploit scenario or two, and then we're going to show some steps to determine what the exploit vector was, and of course we'll analyze a malware sample for the lab. Last time we showed a Word document that included malicious macro scripts, and that's probably going to be sent in an email. And whether it's just, sort of generic wide net phishing or actual spear phishing where you're targeting an employee, phishing is a big way that malware gets onto a network. And if you look at the diagram I have here, it shows all the various steps of spear phishing, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Basically, you target a company, you figure something out about a person, send an email that you think they'll click on, make sure that it'll pass whatever sort of general AV security situations they've got going. They'll probably open it. Studies have shown, very high success rates. At least 3, 4 out of 5 out of 10 will do it. Will click on it, whatever it is, even if it's, not real legitimate looking. And then your malware can be installed. So this time we'll look at another typical infection vector, which is called the drive-by. And, it's a pretty typical situation where you're browsing a website and maybe it was compromised and you didn't realize it. Or perhaps more and more we're seeing malvertising, which is, you're just browsing a general site, whether it's YouTube or some other smaller type website, and malicious ads are injected along with regular ads. Maybe 1 in 1,000 ads are malicious and the rest are perfectly safe. So, it's very difficult to, after the fact, go back to that same website and try to recreate the steps that caused the malware to take place. Getting malware to rerun in the same way that it did originally is pretty difficult in some situations, which again is part of the value that Bromium offers, the fact that malware is captured when it happened. You have an actual trace and an event of all the things that took place inside of the micro virtual machine. So if we keep following the steps, usually there's some kind of a redirect. Oftentimes there's an exploit kit, which includes a variety of exploits. Maybe a browser exploit or a flash exploit, reader, Java, whatever it may be. And typically there's going to be some profiling done of your browser to figure out, okay, this is IE10, they've got this old version of Flash, okay, let's hit them with the Flash exploit. Then boom, once the exploit runs, the payload will go out, download the malware, and do various other things as well. The malware may install another binary, change registry keys, all kinds of things can be done by the malware, and that's what we want to take a look at and see, not just what was done, but in this particular lesson, we really want to go back to, can we figure out what the actual exploit was? And it turns out that's actually the hardest part, because we have the malware, we'll have the executable, we'll have the sample, we can do whatever it takes to unpack the sample, but finding out what the actual exploit was is sometimes pretty difficult if there were lots of different web pages and the exploit kit's very highly obfuscated and stuff. So we're going to try to take a look at how can we pull that all apart. And as usual, instead of looking at contrived examples, I'd rather look at a real sample. And this one's pretty busy. It's got a lot of activity across the internet and things, and we're going to dig into that and take a look and see. This is a real sample from the wild.